Good morning, one and all. I am Dr. Ramya Swetha, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering from Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today, our topic is physical and chemical modifications of ground improvement techniques. What are the various definitions and terminology which we are used for this physical and chemical modification? As per this physical and chemical modification, in physical modifications, we are going to understand what are the various materials, equipments, what are the things we are going to do for physical modification for materials, and what are the physical, it means addition of materials, mechanical means we are used for this physical modification. Coming to the chemical modifications, we are use some admixtures, chemical agents, so other different things we are getting the modification, we are use all these kinds of chemicals are in terms of admixtures. For this, we have to understand the various properties of those chemical, and once that kind of chemical is going to induce to the soil, what are the various reactions we will get. So these are all comes under in this chemical modification. So in this chemical modification techniques, different kinds of terminologies depends upon the using of the which type of chemical modification is required and using of the which type of chemical for getting those desired properties. So in this, generally ground improvement, we are used techniques, different kinds of techniques to improve the engineering properties of the soil, enhancing its stability, strength, permeability to support construction and infrastructure projects. So in mechanical modification, those techniques that involves changing the physical properties. Mechanical modification is nothing but this, simply they are going to change the physical properties of the soil through mechanical means or addition of materials. So the change is physical properties. In chemical modification, techniques that involve altering the chemical properties of the soil through addition of chemical agents or reactions or admixtures like that. So these we are understanding what are the different terms and terminology which we used for this. So in this modification by admixtures. So admixtures is nothing but the materials which we are going to add to the soil to get its properties. So we are adding different kinds of admixture. Each admixture has their own kind of properties. Whenever they are mixed with soil, the reactions are also different. When we are adding soil to the cement, the reactions are different. The properties what we get is different. We will get all these things from the test. And also lime, we may consider lime. When we are adding the soil to the lime, the properties are going to change, and it depends upon the type of the soil. And also fly ash and also other different benders. Each kind of property, each kind of material which we are going to add, we are getting the different kind of properties. So according to the requirement, we are going to choose the admixture. In this, that is not whenever we are adding to the soil to improve its properties, that is nothing but the admixtures, and such as cement, lime, fly ash and other benders. Soil stabilization. Whenever the process of mixing soil with admixtures to improve its strength and durability. So once the complete process, we are mixing the soil with these admixtures, the outcome is its improve of its strength and durability. That whole process is nothing but the soil stabilization. And cement stabilization, when adding cement to soil to increase its compressive strength and reduce permeability, such known as the cement stabilization. Using lime to improve the plasticity, workability and strength of the clayey soils, that is lime stabilization. In this, we have to understand what are the various properties are going to modified using these admixtures, and also what kind of soil is going to react for getting those properties, and which type of admixture is helpful for getting those desired properties. These are all the parameters which we are going to understand in our physical and chemical modification. So in this, we are using these kind of different terminology for modification by admixtures. Admixtures, soil stabilization, cement stabilization, lime stabilization. Now, shotcreting and gunting technology is one of the technique which we choose for getting the desired properties of the soil. In this, shotcreting, gunting, wet mix shotcreting, dry mix shotcreting are the various terminology which we are going to use in this process. So in this, shotcreting is nothing but the application of concrete or mortar, a hose at a high velocity onto a surface typically used to reinforce soil or rock. So this is the application of the concrete. High velocity onto the surface typically used to reinforce soil or rock. That is nothing but the shotcreting. Gunting, it is a similar process to shotcreting where a dry concrete mix is sprayed with high pressure and then hydrated at the nozzle. So here that high pressure and then hydrated at the nozzle, the dry concrete mix is going to spread. That is nothing but the gunting. So in wet mix shotcreting, it involves pumping pre-mixed concrete to the nozzle where compressed air propels it onto the surface. In dry mix shotcreting involves propelling dry materials through a hose and adding water at the nozzle. These are all the various terms which we are used in our physical and chemical modification of the as a part of the ground modification techniques. So in this, modification at depth by grouting. So modification by admixtures, shotcreting and grunting technology, modification at depth by grouting. So depth by depth, the grouting process is equal to change, and the adopting technology is also is equal to different, and also intervals of the depth, the properties are the soil properties are also going to change. So in this, modification at depth by grouting, the process of injecting fluid material into soil or rock to fill voids and fractures, improving the strength and reducing permeability. So in this, reducing permeability means we are getting the improved property. So that is helpful for the construction work. So the process of injecting fluid material into the soil or rock to fill voids and fractures for getting the desired properties or improved properties of the strength and reduced permeability. Permutation grouting, injecting grout into the soil without disturbing its structure. So in some of the situation, whenever we are doing the grouting, there may causes any disturbance. So injecting grout without disturbance the structure, that is nothing but permeation grouting, typically used for sandy soils. So where we are used is also depending upon the type of the soil. So the compaction grouting, injecting a stiff grout to displace and compact the surrounding soil. So we are going to inject a stiff grout to displace and compact the surrounding soil. The fracture grouting. So injecting grout to create fractures in the soil which are then filled to improve stability. So these are the various terms which we are going to use for the modification at depth by grouting, that is grouting, permeation grouting, compaction grouting, fracture grouting. So what are the crack grouting and compaction grouting? In crack grouting, filling cracks in the soil or rock with grout to improve stability and to prevent water ingress. So it's different. So crack grouting is different. properties we are going to do. Fracture grouting, it depends. Compaction grouting, it depends upon the requirement of the soil for the construction work. So in this crack grouting, filling cracks in soil or rock with grout to improve stability and prevent water ingress. Compaction grouting, similar to the compaction grouting mentioned above, used to densify the loose soils and reduce the settlement. So they are going to densify the loose soil, it means the compacted, and reduce the settlement. That's why it is called as compaction grouting, because we are densifying the loose soil. That means we are going to compact it. So we are going to choose. Now in jet grouting, a process that use high pressure, whenever it requires high pressure jets to inject grout into the soil, mixing with the soil from cemented columns or panels. In jet grouting columns, vertical columns created by jet grouting to support structures or improve ground stability. Soil cement columns. Columns formed by mixing of a grout and soil during the jet grouting process. So like this we are going to understand the various terms which we are used. Anything is depends upon the type of soil and what kind and the required desired property or required property of the soil, required property as per the construction need. So like this we are going to understand. The soil cement columns, also columns mixing of grout soil during the jet grouting process. Like this, these are the various terms which we are chosen for this jet grouting. Thermal modification. In this thermal, the name itself, thermal, it depends upon the based on the temperatures. So the technique use heat to change the properties of soil, such as reducing water content and altering the soil structure. For altering the soil structure, this is the one of the technique we are chosen. Those are thermal modification. In these techniques that use heat for change, in sometimes they are going to change the properties and also reducing the water content and also they alter the soil structures. That is thermal modification. Ground freezing. A specific type of thermal modification where the soil is frozen to create a solid impermeable barrier. It is an impermeable barrier, that is nothing but the ground freezing. Electrothermal treatment. Using electric currents to heat and dehydrated soil, improving its strength and reducing compressibility. So electrothermal treatment, ground freezing and thermal modification. So whenever we are going to heat or reducing the temperature and electrical currents used to heat and dehydrate the soil, these are the various terms which we are used as a ground improvement technique. Those are involved in this modification, thermal modification process. So in this, use electrical currents to heat and dehydrate the soil, improving its strength and reduce compressibility. For reducing the compressibility. So these are the various terms which we choose in our thermal modification. In ground freezing, different types are there. Ground freezing, it is a technique which we are going to involve freezing the soil to form a solid mass which can provide temporary support to the during the excavation or construction. And also it is considered as a barrier, impermeable barrier in some of the situations also. So in this artificial ground freezing, AGF, artificial ground freezing, it is a process of circulating coolant through pipes embedded into the ground to freeze the soil. And temporary support, using frozen soil to provide support during excavation activities, preventing collapse and water ingress. These are the various terms which we are used in our ground freezing. In monitoring and maintenance also we are using different terms. Those are inclinometers, piezometers, settlement plates. In these incrometer instruments used to measure the angle of slope or tilt, often used to monitor the ground movement. These piezometer devices used to measure pore water pressure in the soil, providing information on the groundwater conditions. Settlement plates, tools used to monitor the amount of settlements in the ground over time, ensuring stability during and after ground improvement. These are the various terms which we are chosen in monitoring and maintenance. And also various project considerations we are used in all the modules, but I am introduce here why every time repeating all the things. That's why I'm choosing these. In these project considerations also we are using terms. Those are site investigation, design and planning, quality control, environmental impact. These are the most used terms in every study. So in this site investigation, the detailed study of soil properties and conditions to determine the most suitable ground improvement techniques. So for choosing the better ground improvement technique, choice of technique is depends upon the all these parameters. Those are soil properties. And also what we required construction need. Construction need. So according to this, we are going to understand and suitable ground technique determine that is depends upon the site investigation. So in design and planning, develop a plan that outlines the method and procedures for implementing the ground improvement technique. Each technique has their own kind of procedure to get the desired property. Process to get the desired property. For this, we have to design and planning. In some of the situations, they are going to installation process is there. In some of the techniques, they are going to demand some time. Some of the techniques, they are within less time. They are going to driven into the piles, compaction piles, for example. Like that, it depends upon the technique and the process, and we will get the desired properties. That is depends upon the design. So as per the technique we are going to plan. As per the technique we are going to plan. So the development plan outlines the method procedure for implementing the ground improvement technique is depends upon the technique and what is the process involved in it for getting the desired property. Quality control, assuring that the ground improvement techniques are applied correctly and effectively through monitoring and testing. So for quality control, so for understanding the required properties, what are the required, based on the required properties, we are apply the choice, we choose the method. After that completion of this, we are going to monitor. In some cases, we may tests also conducted before and after the process is completed for understanding the quality control of the desired property will we get or not. So like this, we are going to understand this quality control, ensuring that the ground improvement technique are applied correctly and effectively through monitoring and testing. So we are going to monitor and testing for this quality control. Environmental impact. So assessing and mitigating the potential environment effects of the ground improvement activities are also important in our chosen method. Whatever the method, how it affects, or is there any way to reduce the impact effect, and any suggestions or any other methods are may get better results by without affecting the environment. How we are reducing the environmental impact. These are all the parameters we have to understand in our ground improvement techniques. For that, we use this environmental impact also. So like this, we are going to understand the various terms which are going to involve in our ground improvement techniques in our these physical and chemical modifications. Thank you. We will see in our next class.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.